me and you, before we started this, we were trying to figure out big questions in life. Why are we here on Earth, and why does this book exist? Those were the two questions of life, because there is no reason for this book to exist. It is a money cash grab through and through. That's all it seems to be, because there's no story here. The characters are written awfully. I mean, I don't think that we're going to surprise anybody with this one. It's Matthew Rosenberg, who it seems to be the idea, oh, look, Matthew Rosenberg, he has Jason Todd in his Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing book, so we'll tie that in here, but it's barely a tie-in to that anyway, and that's a book that's been canceled. So why would you want to tie into that? He seems to right now be the Jason Todd guy. Please, he shouldn't be the Jason Todd guy. He shouldn't really be anybody guy, because nothing that he does in my mind is hitting. People might like the Wildcat stuff. That's fine, but I just don't get why they have this book. But it is the Batman Catwoman, the Gothamwar Red Hood, #1, written by Matthew Rosenberg, art by Nicola Mazija, if that's how you say it, colors by Rex Locust, letters by Trey Patiri, edited by Ben Abernathy. Ben should, maybe get on the job here and start telling people that they're writing characters way out of character and maybe ruining them in just a lame side book, because this really makes Jason a real piece of shit. I mean, this really makes Catwoman look worse than she was already. And that's where I think that this Gotham War is missing maybe the gentle touch, Gabe, like the gentle touch that you and me love. The idea that she is doing it in a little bit for the love of Bruce and Batman. I said this before, maybe play the idea that he has been so overworked, and while he was sleeping for 2 months, she wanted to make things better so he could. But no, it's just set up as this weird, like everybody's angry. Everybody's trying to prove that they're right, but there's no right. And you see what they're doing is completely wrong. And in this book, it makes it worse. We get another death by the end that I don't even know why or what, but Jason is just over the top violent. Matthew Rosenberg shows that he thinks that Jason is just an over the top violent prick.
Rosenberg's painting Jason as kind of a Punisher light, right? He's just beating up, and he's willing to come close, but maybe not as far as killing people. And as far as Catwoman's motivation, I mean, we're up to speed on all the issues in this event. Right now, I haven't seen anything that clearly defines why Selina is going down the path she's going and why she's trying to do what she's doing. I mean, we're postulating, we're adding those theories to it, but from what I can tell, and one of the hardest things to not do as a reviewer is to insert your headcanon and explain what hasn't been explained to try and make sense of it all, and that's completely natural. But, I mean, if I go back and I look at all the issues that we've covered so far, there is nothing in here that explains why Selina went down this path and what she did during those 8 weeks while Bruce was in a coma. There's just nothing there.
I thought that the big play of this was that when Batman tranked Red Hood, and then when, Jason wakes up and says, what did you do? Something I'm not proud of. I thought we were going to get more of that, but we really don't. We get into this of just, hey, I'm Jason Todd. I'm here. I want to find where the Joker is, and I'm just going to join up for that. That's Jason's motivation, which at the end pisses off Catwoman, but everybody has their motivations. I mean, these henchmen, their motivation is to go and not get beat up and, maybe make some money. Everybody has a deal. Just because Jason just ends up asking a couple guys, hey, what'd you do when you were with the Joker? What does he hang out? Whatever. Why is that such a big play? And I really wish that this was one of those, and I thought it might be, that we were going to see that wink, wink, that Jason actually was trying to figure out, if this was okay, what Catwoman was doing, and maybe doing it to check it out for Batman and the Bat family, just to kind of get the guy inside. Doesn't have to be a double agent type of deal, but maybe that he was curious. Okay, I want to see what this is really. But he just is there maybe to find out about the Joker and beat the shit out of everybody. I mean, he's going to be the trainer, to have these people fight and whatnot. But he just seems just over the top violent. Like I said, he just seems off. The voices of any character in this are way off in my mind.
The whole crux of this issue is Jason doing everything that he can possibly do to get information and get him closer to Joker. It's not like he hasn't had a chance to interact with Joker once prior to this. Second, that kind of tells me that when Rosenberg was crafting the story, assuming this was all his idea, I don't know if it is, but maybe it was, that he's really going with like the the surface level kind of Wikipedia version of Jason Todd's highlights of his career.
Right from his Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing. Jason's in that book trying to find the Joker. That's all this is. And in there, you don't really define it very well. And so you end up having a guy who legitimately has been writing a year's worth of kind of Jason. He kind of pops in and out, but he's the main figure in that book. He doesn't get the character. The setup might have done it, but still, this is, again, Jason, who they even have to show him breaking into a cop car with a crowbar. Like, it's just basic bitch Jason. And that's why he never evolves. That's why he's always the dupe and shit like this, because it's like Guy Gardner with the Green Lanterns. Nobody wants to end up, evolving them. So they go back to their basic deal of, okay, I'm the Robin who ended up killing. I was dead. I ended up with the Joker. And at this point, yeah, maybe you should get past it, Jason. Again, though, the only reason they have this, I think, is because he's doing the Jason trying to track down both Jokers in that Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing. And it's just nonsense. So,
why would you tie into a series that's been canceled because nobody's reading it?
Because it's his series, I guess. Maybe they decided they're going to have the times. Now, just as a generalized deal overall, like, we had Night Terrors. People got upset about those tie-ins, but that was an event. This Gotham War, it's not even good enough to really go through 2 books, let alone have a 2-shot tie-in. There's no reason for it. So if you're going to do it, you know that these tie-ins like this aren't going to really expand the story because you can't really count on people getting them. So they're going to be this does nothing. It doesn't do anything except probably piss off Jason Todd fans because it's that bad.
I mean, I'll give Rosenberg credit. I mean, he needed to do a Red Hood focused story, and he's doing that. So you're getting Red Hood in it. There's Red Hood in it, and he's on every page. But one of the, I think, besides Selina's baffling plan to create a henchman union, which is the kind of the foundation of this whole event, and it's dumb. It falls apart with just the slightest amount of pressure. One of the things that's been probably more baffling is Red Hood's behavior through the entire event, because he went from, hey, let's hear Selina out, to, hey, I think she's got a point, to, hey, let me get in with her to see if I can help her kind of bring Bruce over to her side. Now, where he's not only participating in the robberies, but he's also training the henchmen. So he's complaining about making the henchmen smarter and more dangerous potentially if they ever go back, but at the same time he's the one that's training them to do that.
And I want to point out,
I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah.
Well, I said it before. I mean, here's the deal: Catwoman, who they claim is the world's greatest criminal now, she's going to teach these henchmen that are used to, shooting people, beating them up. She's going to teach them to do it better. You're going to be stealthy. You're going to be Catwoman-esque. You're going to go do cat burglaries. Hey, everybody works out. We're stealing from the rich. Why every time we see training, it's full-out combat training?
Yeah.
You are setting up this so people aren't going to get hurt. And remember, it's not just death. You're setting it up to and saying there's no more violent crimes, but she's training them to be violent. And it happens here. Jason beats the living crap out of these guys so that they're ready to what? Sneak in Mission Impossible style with a zip line and steal a diamond? What are they going to beat up the laser technology? It's nonsense. So when you have this, even that you have Jason, one guy says, I think I'm out here. That guy's the smart guy. And Jason says, you're the smart one. That guy gets the hell out, right?
I'm kind of getting tired of saying this phrase. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
The whole premise here is they don't want violent crime. They don't want people getting hurt. They don't want these henchmen doing violent things. And yet the half of the montage for their training is them in a ring with Jason where he's showing them how to snap bones and break jaws.
Yeah, that's all he's doing.
What's the point?
I don't know. I mean, really, hey, it looks like the door's locked. Well, it looks like we're going to beat the shit out of it. Like, is that what they're doing? They're now the cat burglars / violent. I don't know. So here's the other thing. Jason does show these guys a lot because there's these 2 guys. You know what he shows Simpson and Bash? His face. He actually is coming in as Red Hood. Why didn't Matthew Rosenberg know and be smart enough that Jason Todd comes in as, hey, this is my long-lost cousin, Tommy, if you're not going to keep your mask on? He is Red Hood. He talks about Batman. He talks about all the training he got, all that, and then within 2 pages, he is there with them without a mask on. He is exposing his identity. You can say these guys are dumb or whatnot, but you can't do that. You can't end up telling people you're Red Hood and then just go around without a mask on. And he does it throughout this whole play. These guys can end up having a mint. Just take one little picture, say, this is Red Hood. You end up, and Batman's done too. So it's just not even thinking that through. And I hate when you read issues where as you're going through, you realize that it's just the play is so ridiculous within its own story that it's just insane. He's there. And again, he's there. You see, he's very recognizable with that stupid gray patch of hair that makes him look like Jason Blood anymore. There's no way people aren't going to be able to tie this together. And there he is doing the thing.
You have a small army of henchmen that are all have ties to one or more multiple rogues, from everything from Joker to Scarecrow, which comes up as a prevalent part of this story, and everyone in between. And you're telling me that one of them would be thinking, hey, maybe I can get back in with my old boss.
Yeah.
Maybe he would be grateful for this information. Maybe he'd pay me money if I told him who this guy really was.
I mean, get a sketch artist even, but take a picture. And that's the thing, too.
They're henchmen. They're not reliable. They're not trustworthy.
No, they're not trustworthy. And they are, at least, they might be dumb, whatever you could say, but they're seasoned in fighting Batman and the Rogues Gallery. A lot of them even play the idea that they fought Jason before. They fought Batman. This does not take a rocket surgeon to figure out that Jason Todd, Red Hood, here we go, and then everything falls apart.
And several of them have probably been in jail at least once or more, probably because they were put there by him.
Yeah, exactly. They probably know and have fought him as well. Like, oh, that's who you are? Okay, I'll keep that in mind. As you have all this, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why even then, like I said, come in and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to have you train. And maybe here's a funny play. And again, we're not here to tell the story our way, but you have Jason Todd come in as, Selina's long-lost cousin, Jimmy Boy. Jimmy Boy starts training him, and one guy actually says, you seem a lot familiar to me, the way you just beat me up. I've been beat up like that before. And that would be kind of a funny little tension there. Oh, my God, he might find out. Not here. He just he's out and about. They're out on the town together. He has this little ski mask deal on, or this little cap there. But still, you end up where, again, he is teaching them a couple things. Breaking into a police car. Okay. Yep. He ends up where he then, hey, you got to trust me. I'm going to beat the shit. All these things going on, but then takes him to a biker bar that used to be that henchman bar. Now is the biker bar. And you end up having Bash, who you start the whole play of this whole deal, which seems to be like the basis of a tie-in 2-issue mini seems to be that Bash, who used to be a Scarecrow henchman, he's afraid the Scarecrow's going to come back and take vengeance on him for quitting. That's what we get. So you have Jason Todd, but really this is a Bash story. But then Jason says, we're training you to be cat burglars, non-violent criminals, so that Gotham gets better. All right, I'm going to start a biker bar brawl, and you guys aren't allowed to be violent. But this is the thing. That doesn't make sense.
All he's doing is training them to take a punch. Why? The whole idea is to avoid violence altogether.
Exactly, and I'm here. If I'm Bash, and I keep forgetting, Bash and Simpson. I'll say I'm Simpson. Bash, he dies at the end. Spoiler alert.
Sounds like an R&B duo from the 70s.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm not going to sing. Don't make me sing.
I won't either yet. But you have this here. I might later. You have this here going on, and you're training them to... But if it was me, if I'm Simpson, I say, well, wait a second. Isn't Selina supposed to be training us to be better so we don't get caught? Because all this is if you get caught, don't kill the people that are trying to beat you up. But unfortunately, as we saw earlier in this event, most of the people that will catch you will have guns, which ends up happening here as well. And in that, he ends up like, hey, do you know anything about the Joker? You ever hang out with the Joker? Man, we don't really know about the Joker. Oh, man, sucks being you. Hey there, biker guys. These guys say you suck, and then walks out. And then while he walks out, like Selina just shows up in the alley, and they start yelling at each other about this. And it even ends up, it's so not these characters, especially Selina. I think that they're just worried, like nobody knows how to write Selina at this moment. Teenie Howard's terrible. She does the solo book. And you see that Matthew Rosenberg is just writing everybody is ramped up angry. That's all there is in this. Everybody's angry. And I thought that you would have seen the opposite since Selina's trying to make things different. But she's pissed. She's yelling at Jason. Oh, man, you better not get people killed here, whatnot. Well, you already did, Selina, but still. And so you end up, these guys end up being beat up. They end up in the alley beat up by these bikers. And they're like, hey, they're not dead. Good job. And then they seemingly, I don't know, I got the idea they just left them. But poor Bash goes home and has a nightmare, maybe, about the Scarecrow. Because maybe the Scarecrow really is there. The way that we play at the end, it might be the case. But he's so concerned and upset and worried that the Scarecrow is going to get him. And you can play it in your mind. It's not that well played out in this of a guy that you could have went, in my mind, with what happens when you've been around the Scarecrow so long and that, fear toxin might be in your blood and you end up all this, that it could be something that shows you why Selina would be in the right to get him away from these people. But it just plays off as just surface level and like a hack. I seriously. But you go, because then they go and Jason comes into town. Like, Jason at this point, why even put on the Red Hood shit? There's no reason for it. We know that they know who you are. And he comes in to yell. And unfortunately, Bash, he had a nightmare about the Scarecrow. We get another page of him just saying, oh, look, Simpson says, oh, Bash had a nightmare, as he runs off scared. Shut the hell up, and runs off. I'm like, you're wasting a lot of time.
Bash has a nightmare or a vision, or actually he does get a visit from Scarecrow. Maybe we'll see how that plays out. And somehow it's never explained. It's never shown. Scarecrow just kind of puts the fear of the Scarecrow in him, I guess. And so when they're meeting the next day to talk about their first big job, where they're going to go out and do what they need to do, Bash is just super nervous. He's super amped up, and he's like jumping at shadows. And that's somehow freaking him out. And you're right. Jason shows up in full costume. Why? Why bother? They've seen your face. They know what you look like. There's no reason for that. So they just prepare to kind of go out for their first like big union job, if you want to call it that. And it goes badly. It goes really badly because Bash is just nervous and he's jumping at shadows and he's doing all the things that he's not supposed to do, which is basically prepare for fight, carry a gun, which he's not supposed to have, and then they get surprised.
Because he's paranoid. And so when you look back at it, the weird play here is, again, you have what looks like, in my mind, that the Scarecrow actually visited him. He says, hey, he goes, sweet dreams. It's important to be ready for your new job. So it looks like, if you really play it out, that Scarecrow is trying to just mess things up to maybe put an end to this henchman. But it's such a convoluted deal, especially by the end, where it looks like he could have killed him right now. But I think you're supposed to believe that Scarecrow's trying to put a wrench in the works here, where he's going to end up. And you could say that at this point, Bash is still being affected by the fear toxin. That's why he's antsy. That's why he ends up, oh my God, the Scarecrow's going to come and get us. Oh my God, oh my God. And what he ends up doing is just running off during a robbery to then trip the alarm. But I don't really know why, because it seems like they would have disabled the alarm to get in there. But then he trips it on the way out running, which then alerts the police, security, whatever it would be. But it looks like a policeman who comes in, draws his gun. This guy's not doing anything but his job. And I've been bitching and moaning that the police and security aren't doing their jobs up to this point. And this guy is just there as a prop, because you end up having Jason in the shadows just come in, and you have this crazy deal. This guy doesn't want to be involved in this. His gun is shaking. He's upset. He's saying, I got to arrest you guys. Jason's saying, listen, like, they disabled all the cameras in this place, but didn't disable the one alarm that you end up having Bash go through to set. It makes no sense. But the guy doesn't want to kill anybody. The guy doesn't want to do it. And Jason, like, kind of promises that maybe he won't get fired, but then you're messing with people like that. But then Bash freaks out and pulls out a gun and he's Bash. He bashes the guy over the head with a pistol whip of the gun, and he's going to shoot him dead because he's paranoid that the Scarecrow sent him because of the fear toxin, you would think. And that's where Jason then beats the living crap out of him. He ends up and it's one of those where I'm surprised he didn't bring up Batman. Batman, you jerk. Like, he's like, really seems like he's letting out a lot of frustrations on this Bash. You're going to ruin things. I'm going to beat you up. He even ends up hitting, Simpson who came in to try to stop. You're about to kill him. Come on now. And you said the best is like the whole play of no violence as Jason is just destroying this guy who unfortunately seems like he is affected by the fear toxin. But he's like, oh, I love here now. They end up, why would they put the stuff back now? Are you with me? Because Jason says, why?
I mean, the one panel that you're referring to is like a half-page panel where you're right. Jason's beating the snot out of Bash. I mean, he's bashing Bash, right? I mean, you see blood everywhere. His skull is getting practically caved in. And the irony of that is Jason saying, I said no one gets hurt. At the same time, he's beating Bash to death, practically speaking. And so there's kind of a weird irony about how that. And this is one of those panels where you can say, well, you can interpret it in multiple ways. You could say he's really saying it, but this is Jason's work, so he doesn't have, he doesn't have self-discipline and self-control. He doesn't have that boundary to hold himself back. Or you could also say that he's like projecting his hatred for Joker or whoever else on Bash, and he's unstable himself. And if it goes down that way, you could almost interpret it as saying Rosenberg and everything about the war is trying to turn Jason into a villain, which he's sort of an anti-hero sort of villain. But I mean, this is really pushing the boundary of going down that path. So again, there's so many different ways you can interpret this, and none of them are particularly good. You just don't get what they're trying to say here. I mean, you see what they're doing, but at the same time, what am I taking away from this message? And for Jason, none of it is good.
I get like Simpson would start talking to the other people, because it does also look like, hey, Jason doesn't care about us. He cares more about this random cop that we didn't know, because he's, really upset about that. So, where is the deal going? Especially talking a lot about, loyalty and things, and you have to watch out with these henchmen and whatnot. But he tells them, put back the stuff you stole, and then you'll have to deal with Catwoman. I'm like, why would you do that? That's just ridiculous. But you end up where Catwoman's pissed off. You have Dario here, who looks like a Hulk, but every time we see Dario now, the guy gains like 4 inches and 10 pounds of muscle. Now he's this big brute who can stop Jason from doing things. He was never that.
Yeah, he looks like a bouncer. He looks like a bouncer.
He was like a chubby guy who, that was his thing. But now he's this brute of a man. And yeah, Bash isn't doing well. Oh, we're having some problems. And then you get this whole play again with Selina. Might be a little drunk there, drinking, who ends up saying, what the hell happened last night? And Jason says, Bash almost killed a cop. And I know some people are going to have problems with this. He says, Bash almost killed a cop. And Selina says, could be worse. He could have almost killed an innocent person. Like that cop did anything but try to not do anything bad. The guy was begging to not have to do anything bad to them. He was begging, I don't want to shoot anybody. Please, I have a job here. You put me in a bad situation. He seemed very nervous, very upset that he was going to lose his job. And here's Selina just whitewashing the whole deal of saying police are bad. And that's the problem here. You are doing nonviolent crimes. That's fine and dandy. But you're also committing crimes where police are going to have to stop you. That doesn't mean they're bad. You are the bad people here. You're the ones committing crimes. Yes, police are going to come in. She almost plays it off as if a cop died there. Oh, well, it's a guilty person. No, you're guilty. In fact, you should be hunted down for murder. You're still wanted for murder. You escaped from a jail, and you're sitting there saying, well, it could have been an innocent person. And then Jason says, you think this is funny? This is bullshit. And then Catwoman calls him out. You're just here to get the Joker. You're just here to get the Joker. Who cares? Everybody has their own motivation. I wish she said, why the fuck are you here? What are you doing? Because she almost feels like at points she wants to prove Batman wrong, stick it to him. She wants to be rich, whatever. Everybody's going to have their motivations. Yeah, some of these henchmen's motivations are getting away from the bad guys, the rogues gallery. You would think that, is Jason just going to forget that he has these issues? Like you said, it's the one issue that they always keep forcing, but it's no shock. And she's just berating him about an obsession, and he just kind of like yells about it kind of half-assed. He doesn't really say like, what's up with you? What are you doing? But ends up saying, the hell with this, get me away. I love that Dario's holding him back. It reminds me of an asshole in a hockey fight that the ref comes and they try to pretend the ref is holding him back because there's no way the ref could, but they'll pretend that. try to reach over like they're tough guys.
Yeah.
I hate those guys. But yeah, and he just like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And then he goes to then find Bash. This looks like it's his apartment. He goes in. Just a scene. He crawls in the window, which I don't know why he has to do that. But then the lights go on. He's right next to Bash's body. The lights go on. It's Steph. Steph, what are you doing here? Did Steph set this up? Like, she knows what this is. She already saw. Did she have the light? Oh, Jason's coming. Turn off the lights. Turns it off. It's like a surprise fucking birthday party. Surprise! He's dead. And there he is. He's dead. And it says, get your own toys, Red Hood. And they say there's traces of fear toxin present in the air. Me and you were talking about that earlier. That's just from the night before when the Scarecrow came to screw with them. So yeah, there you go. You find out at the end, it was him being kind of mind controlled a bit or scared because of the fear toxin. But where does that get you? Because then she says, this is bad. And he goes, I'm afraid it's about to get much worse. How? Why do you think that? The one guy who kept yelling and screaming about the Scarecrow's after me, Scarecrow's after me. There you go. But why is it that if this is the Scarecrow who did this, why is he after Red Hood? I know Red Hood trained the
Why is he after Cat? Why is he after Cat? This was her plan. This whole thing is her plan.
I know why. Because Red Hood's the tie-in book, and it has Red Hood. No, it should be Red Hood, get your cat away from people, bitch. I don't know what it would be, but why a Red Hood? Why Red Hood? He's just there. And then you're tying in the Joker because of the obsession of Jason. And that muddies up shit too, really. You shouldn't even bring that in because that muddies up the whole play. This should just be Scarecrow deal. But even so, we have, there's one thing I can say, two things that I like about this. We have been saying, why aren't the villains fighting back? Well, he is now. Scarecrow looks like he's pissed. But the other thing is, and you mentioned it in passing a bit, the idea that Jason says to Catwoman, all you're doing is training these henchmen to be better for when they go back to their rogues, when they go back to being the henchmen they were before, because we know that's going to happen, and it's true. And and they kind of push that away. This is bullshit, though. I mean, it's just a nothing story to tell just nothingness and get these characters so wrong to make you now hate. Actually, I'll ask you right now. This is where I'll go with the deal. Who are you rooting for in the stupid Gotham war? Because there's nobody to really root for. You think everybody's dumb and everybody's doing, but it isn't something where you're online. Like, this could have been something like, again, it's playing off like a bullshit, stupid civil war. Like, yeah, you'd be online. I'm with Steve. I'm Team Tony. Here, there's nobody getting involved. It's just like the idea of Night Terrors when I said, nobody is trying to guess who Insomnia is because it's going to be bullshit. And it was. Oh, nobody's trying to guess where the Nightmare Stone is because it's going to be bullshit. And it was. There's nobody online saying, I'm Team Batman. Batman really does this, that, or Selina's right. Nobody is because this sucks. And then by the end, you're just like, this makes it worse. This makes me hate everybody. But
well, having read through the whole thing so far, just all the different parts and all the tie-ins and everything else, the only person whose side I'm on right now is Damien.
That's the only one. I'm with him
because he saw the cool hand. He's like, where can I get one of those? And that made me laugh. So I like that one a bit.
I'll even just go base level. He's there for his father. There you go. Exactly. I want my kids to be there for me.
That's a motivation I can get behind. Sure.
That's it. So,
but that word is the key to why this whole thing. Where it relies on this one thing, but also at the same time why this whole event doesn't work. It's all about motivations. Now, so if you take a look at this one, right? So we have no idea what Catwoman's motivation is in all of this because it's never explained, and she never really spells it out, or you never really see it from a flashback or anything. The problem then when you get into Red Hood is first he starts off with the motivation of getting after Joker, but at the same time he starts training Selina, which he doesn't need to do that to get the information out of the henchmen. He could have just picked up any one of them at any time, which you saw in the very beginning. But for some reason, he decides to help Selina because that gets him what he wants, which doesn't make any sense. And then the whole thing about the henchmen with their union is they are motivated to kind of not have to deal with crazy rogues, get better payoffs and not have to deal with violence and do all these things that somehow they're unwilling participants in what Freeze or Scarecrow is doing, which is not true. On its face is not true. But what happens is now because of the way Jason's acting, he's acting just as bad as the rogues. Why would a henchman want to continue with training a guy
they're
with
just getting beat up?
Yeah, if you make a mistake, he's gonna beat you to a pulp if you make a mistake.
Just imagine, you're like, I'd rather go back to the Joker. He's being beaten up by
crazy,
Jason.
but at least he doesn't try to kill me every 5 minutes.
And then there's, again, you have this idea of the motivation that some people say, well, Selina's motivated to make Gotham a less... But that's not a motivation that is really sticking for me with Catwoman. And that's where you're missing any sort of setup. Teenie Howard, in jail, break out of jail. In the meantime, you got Cats delivering ramen. I always want to mention that. But the idea where it was a bullshit setup, where you needed something was that something big happened. And this would be like the idea of, hey, Batman would never kill Joker, right? Well, if the Joker does something so crazy, insane, that might be a setup of Batman maybe thinking it through. We never saw anything like Selina's best friend, Selina, the Strays, all these things where one of them got killed in the middle of a big henchman Freeze versus Penguin standoff. You never got that. You never got the way that Selina, it went in her head that, damn it, I'm done with this. These assholes, I have to stop violent crime. The only way I can do it is by teaching them to do less violent crime. And that shuts down all the rogues gallery because they're too dangerous, whatnot. You just ended up getting it thrown in your face for pretty much Catwoman to go to Batman and say, nah, I ended up making Gotham less violent. I'm better than you. Oh, my God. That's not enough.
Yeah, that's not enough. And that's the problem right from the beginning, because she indirectly makes the statement, well, violent crime is down, but they never explained why that was all of a sudden now that's a big driving motivator for her. Why? I mean, she walks around with a whip for a reason. I mean, she's not above using violence, but they never explain why all of a sudden that's a problem and I have to do away with all of it.
You need a setup.
They never explained it all.
It would be easy for one of the Strays, the kids, to get killed during something violent, whatever, and she's like, that's it, I can't take. But you never had set up. It doesn't even set up anything where, if you have certain characters, if you don't, you can have set up from before, that's a classic deal with, say, Red Hood. Or I get it, Nightwing was always against Blockbuster, so that's why he's doing this. With Catwoman, you're trying to put her in an elevated position that she's never been in, really, and you're trying to just say that's how it is. You got to accept it, away we go, and it doesn't work, and everything falls apart. And then when you get pretty much watered down to the point of a tie-in with Red Hood, now shit really goes bad, because Matthew Rosenberg, he's got to try to figure out bullshit to go with their bullshit that is already bullshit. So at the end, you're just like, this is nothing. There's no reason for this tie-in. There's no reason to buy this. It's just nonsense. And again, it paints Jason,
I know people hate the script doctoring. So, I mean, but you're absolutely right in that it only makes sense if, let's say the Strays were like sleeping in a room somewhere. And then maybe Joker set off a bomb and he blew up the building and he killed it. And she's like, enough of this. And I'm going to put an end to this, which is fine. But what that does then, if you go down that route, which is the route that probably makes the most sense for what she's trying to do.
Have a personal motivation besides just...
Right, it gives her a personal motivation, but what that does is it sets up a war between her and the other rogues. The entire focus of this event has been between a conflict between her and Bruce, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they're sitting around a table. What are we going to do about this? But that's legit. And again, you can say, but it's not done right. The idea where she does ask them to get on board with her, but that's after the fact, and that she's doing it in a way that isn't right anyway, and Batman would never agree. So it's all bullshit. And by the way, I think you might hate script doctoring. I know a lot of people who like it. So we'll go with that. I
don't mind script doctoring, but I understand that's not our role. I mean, we're trying to review, not script doctoring.
I don't know what your role is. Your role's being sus. That's what your role is.
Well, just give me a Predator issue written by Ed Brisson, and I'll show you how sus I am.
People were upset that you didn't do Predator Wolverine with me, but Brandon had already called it. So.
I preemptively stole your joke, so there you go. But I will point out one super duper highlight of this issue is I like the cover a lot, which is Carmine Gia and Domenico. I mean, that's a nice cover. I like that cover a lot. So
that's the best. When somebody says their favorite part is the cover, I actually enjoy the lettering. So take that, Gabe. What would you give this for a score?
We'll probably get a written review up either later or tomorrow. But just because we've already talked it through and I've already sort of got my thoughts together, I'm probably going to give this a 4. I mean, and most of that is going to be art, just because the story is nonsense. It's convoluted. It doesn't make sense. There's no point in trying to boost up a nonsense tie-in that has no purpose.
Nope, I'm a 3.5. It's bad. Nobody should buy this. If you really need it and you have the Infinite app, then just read it there. I wouldn't even say to read it there, though. Just avoid it. It's a nothing book in a nothing story.
And it adds nothing to the event. It adds nothing to the event.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. That's it. Matthew Rosenberg has no idea what he's doing. And I kind of wish that he wasn't writing things at DC because it might be a vendetta. It might not be, but almost everything that I read from him is bad. So that's that.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.